One senator that's excused, Rick. He won't be able to be here. The others were talking about joining online, at least 2 of them. So we can go ahead and get started. Adam, we're going to turn our attention to the hearing on Senate Bill 158. Could you give us a briefing on that?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 158 would prohibit the towing of vehicles outside the state of Kansas without prior consent. It would require an interstate search of registered owners and lien holders prior to the sale of a non-repairable vehicle or a vehicle less than 10 years old. And it would lastly require publication in the newspaper 7 days prior to the sale of vehicles and property at auction. And all these deal with towed vehicles. Under section 1 of the bill, it's essentially just a statutory or a definition section, inserting the definition of person into the definition section of the Towing and Abandoned Vehicles Act. Section 2 would prohibit the towing service provider from towing a vehicle to a location outside the state of Kansas without the consent of either the driver or owner of the vehicle, or the motor club of which the driver or the owner is a member. And then section 3 of the bill would require that prior to the sale of a towed vehicle that cannot be verified by the Division of Vehicles, it would be required to have an interstate search performed on the vehicle unless the vehicle is 10 years of age or older or a non-repairable vehicle. And then lastly, in section 3, there's a requirement that prior to sale at auction, there must be notice of the auction be published 7 days before the auction in the newspaper, or published, 7 days prior to the scheduled auction. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Committee, any questions for Adam? Seeing none, thank you. We'll turn our attention to proponents. Tom Whitaker, Motor Carriers. Welcome to the committee again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to take this off so I can breathe. I am Tom Whitaker, Executive Director of the Kansas Motor Carriers Association, and I appear here this morning specifically representing our Towing and Recovery Division, which has 40-plus members in it, to support Senate Bill 158. This bill is a result of discussions within the Kansas Department of Revenue Division of Vehicles and KMCA and our towers. I hosted a Zoom meeting with our towers and had 46 people on the Zoom call, all with different stories about how their towing operations work. So it was an interesting hour and a half, I can tell you that. But what this bill, where the towing and recovery lien law came from, it was adopted in 1987, and it was a result of a court case between the owner of the vehicle and Overland Body Tow. And the court ruled that because this was a police tow, that only the owner could require the vehicle to be towed and thereby create the lien. Well, we all know a lot of times it's law enforcement that orders the tow. So we came in with a process that spelled out it's either the owner or law enforcement that requests the tow. The tower has to be properly registered with the Kansas Corporation Commission and have insurance on file. They tow the vehicle in. If they know who the owner is, like through a police document, then they're required to contact them at least by phone within 15 days if they don't come get their vehicle. Then within 30 days, they're required to do a VIN verification through the Department of Revenue Division of Vehicles to get the names of any owners and lien holders. They get that back. 10 days, within 10 days after that, they're required to send certified letters to the owners and any lien holders saying these vehicles will be sold at auction to satisfy the possessory lien if this isn't taken care of in 15 days. So the process is there. Then they have to publish it and sell it at public auction to make sure that we're following the rights of getting legal title to the vehicle without actually having to go get quiet titles for everything they tow. And this has worked very well, but there are some instances that have changed things. One, and the chairman knows this very well, he and former Senator Apple developed the private property tow section. A tow company can't just go on private property and tow a car. They have no lien. Unless the language that the chairman helped develop, a city or county adopts a ordinance or resolution that spells out the rate when you notify people, when you tell the police, and everything else if it's a private property tow, like somebody abandons a vehicle on an apartment parking lot or in back of our building at times, 29th and Topeka. There are only two places in Kansas right now that have those ordinances or resolutions, and that's Sedgwick County, and it works very well down there. And Wyandotte County has just added this. The First Amendment to this bill would require a vehicle that is towed in Kansas to stay in Kansas unless the owner requests it be moved, or the motor club says, no, we want it, especially in the metro area of Kansas City, want it to be over here to take care of it. And we do have an amendment to add the insurance company or agent of an insurance company that wants to move the vehicle to that section of the bill. But the reason being is I'm an apartment owner in Johnson County. And I got two vehicles sitting on my lot that I can't get rid of because Johnson County doesn't have this ordinance to deal with private property tows. So they call somebody across the line to come get the vehicles, and away that vehicle goes, and it's sold under Missouri law. This language mirrors Missouri law that says if it's towed in Missouri, it can't leave the state. So I think it makes good sense that your cars just don't disappear if you live along the borders, and that is why that amendment was added. The Second Amendment deals with newer vehicles, those that are younger than 10 years and have not been determined to be, quote, non-repairable, like a burnout vehicle or something like that. There is currently a website that, for all but about 4 or 5 states, that towers can go to, and it will tell them where that vehicle is registered so that they can access those out-of-state vehicles and find out who the owner is to notify them that the vehicle is being held for the lien and that it will be sold at auction unless somebody comes and gets the car. Now, you and I would all go get our cars, I'm sure, but I call towing and recovery people the litter control officers of our highways for the stuff that you see on the side of the road that isn't going anywhere. But for those newer vehicles, we want to protect the consumer. And basically, these are only vehicles, when we go to the Division of Vehicles and say, we want to know who owns this vehicle and who the lien holders are, it will come back no record. And this is when they're required to make that check. Now, over the years, we've heard of NMVDIS, which is the National Motor Vehicle Title Information System. And that is scheduled to be online in the next 2 or 3 years. So when we go to the Division of Vehicles, they can check that record and we won't have to do this step with the internet company. So that is a protection for newer vehicle owners. And the final amendment in this bill deals with when the publication is made. And I'm still one of those people that take the newspaper here in Topeka. And if you look in the front of the want ads, it'll list towing and recovery lien auction. And it lists all the vehicles that are for sale. And what we were finding is all of a sudden they were being published the same day as the auction, and the auctions were starting at 7 o'clock in the morning by some towers. Now, don't know why, but that's not very much notice of a auction. So we put in the law with the agreement of our tow companies that are members that their publication would have to be at least 7 days prior to the auction of the vehicles. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I believe that, oh, there is one other amendment on the requirement for checking the internet. Coparts wanted to make sure that that requirement only applied to the possessory lien law. So adding a small amendment that says pursuant to this section, so it doesn't affect anybody else, those would be the two amendments, Mr. Chairman, we would ask be added if the committee chooses to work this bill, and I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
You'd be willing to work with Adam on those amendments?
Absolutely.
Any questions? Senator Pittman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Whitaker. I think this is a fantastic bill in terms of protecting our consumers who have cars out there, and I'm one of those border cities in Leavenworth, and I don't want my car getting towed over to Missouri. So I do appreciate that. Tell me, what is the, 10 years of age, I've got a car, I've got a number of them, I hold on to them, 13, 14 years old. Why 10 years? It doesn't seem to make sense to me to have that kind of limitation on that type of law in such a good bill.
Well, because we get so few of those late model vehicles, and from the consensus within the towing group and the department, this would cover the ones that they're worried about. Where you get a vehicle, you run the VIN very quickly, it comes back no record, you publish it, and you sell it. This allows them to at least check. Currently, there is no check. And that was kind of the date that was agreed to amongst the department and the towers, that they were willing to do it, because it does cost a little money to do the additional check. And usually when you've got a junk car that you're selling, you're losing money from the very beginning. So
I understand that. One other question is, newspapers, I get the newspaper too, but a lot of people don't. Is there a website that one could go to see these auctions that we could use instead of just the newspaper? Because, it is, obviously, you've got to be somebody who really gets the newspaper, reads it, and looks at that type of stuff. And in our new age, the internet seems to be a much quicker place to get information.
There are a lot of publications that are legal publications in the state that are online. I know one operates in Johnson County and Wyandotte County and in Sedgwick County, where that's where they put their legal publications. Just say that these vehicles are going to be sold. If you want to kind of go around and see what's for sale, I would suggest you go to the website Interlock.com. is where a lot of some of these auctions are held, to do them online. But as I said, 99% of the vehicles that they tow aren't worth what they're going to get, or aren't worth their bill, excuse me. But every once in a while, they get a good car, and this at least puts that requirement that they check out on those good cars. All I can tell you is that was the agreed on date between the department and the towers with me. I'd have to go back and do one of those Zoom calls to get approval, but I'd split the difference with you. 12.
Leanne Phelps, if you're online, did you have any input into that on the date, or was that just between the towers?
No, we did confer about that, and it was agreed upon. We've had vehicles come through that were brand new, had never been titled, were on MSO still through that process, and so We just felt that there needed to be that additional check for those newer vehicles. And that was just what we agreed upon.
Like someone abandoning the test drive.
Well, I think a couple of the instances we had where vehicles stolen off of dealerships' lots or floors in Missouri that came over to Kansas.
Okay, thank you. Senator Pittman.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I had a question just on definitions for my own edification. Motor clubs, so the inside there, it defines people inside the motor club can authorize these things. What does that mean exactly from a definition standpoint?
I would have to refer to the revisor, but I always think of AAA or,
That's what I was thinking, but
Yeah.
it didn't make sense that AAA would be authorized, I guess, to do this versus the owner of.
well, if you call AAA for a tow and you're broken down, they can arrange to have that taken wherever it needs to be. Yeah.
Adam, did you have a response to that on Auto Club?
The bill itself does not define motor club, so it would just be good to fall back to the standard understanding of what it would be.
Any further questions? Seeing none. Appreciate the testimony, Tom. Committee note, you do have written testimony and support from Leanne Phelps with the Division of Vehicles, Department of Revenue. Is there any further proponents? Any further neutrals? Any opponents? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 158. Turn our attention to Senate Bill 146. Committee, it is my intention to try and work Senate Bill 158 tomorrow, so any amendments, if you would contact Adam, would be appreciated. 146, Adam, can you give us a briefing?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 146 would essentially change the oversight of the state certification ignition interlock manufacturers from the Department of Revenue to the Highway Patrol. And really the only substantive changes in the bill is, transferring this authority from Department of Revenue, Division of Vehicles to Highway Patrol. Section 1 of the bill transfers essentially the oversight over the DUI IID designation fund from Revenue to the Highway Patrol. Section 2 and 3 would transfer the approval of the ignition interlock devices from vehicles to the Highway Patrol. And then lastly, Section 4 would transfer the ability to adopt rules and regulations from Revenue to the Highway Patrol. And it also would transfer kind of our generic language when something like this happens. The current rules and regulations that exist would be essentially assumed into the Highway Patrol. With that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Any questions for Adam? Senator Dietrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this, Adam may not know the answer to this. I had a constituent a couple of years ago who had an issue with these interlock devices, and there was an offset or some sort of a grant opportunity that he could apply to through, I thought, the Department of Revenue, and I could be mistaken. Are you aware of anything like that?
I'd have to defer to probably the Department of Revenue or Highway Patrol.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any further questions? See none. Thank you. First up, we have Kevin Barone. Coalition of Interlock Manufacturers. Welcome to the committee. I think it's first time this year.
This is the first time. Welcome, committee. My name is Kevin Barone. I represent the Coalition of Ignition Interlock Manufacturers. We have worked with the Department of Revenue and Highway Patrol on this issue. This is a very good bill. We're very excited to see this move over. We've had a good working relationship with Highway Patrol, who's taken all this over. They come in and test our units for Kansas compliance every couple of years, and then we, based on passing that, then we continue working throughout the state with our stores and our shops that set up and install. All the people in the state, all the manufacturers have installs in all the judicial districts in the state, so they're covered across the state everywhere. And that's what we just want to testify to, Senator Dietrich. There is a indigent fund that's set up through the Department of Revenue that they can fill out some paperwork and then get discounted rates and all that for the monthly fees and discounted installation and all that too.
Thank you, and thank you for being here today.
No problem.
So would that still be a viable option?
Yes, the program itself is not changing anything about it. We're just moving everything over to where they can help us a little easier.
Thank you.
No problem.
Has this been the current practice right now, that the highway patrol's kind of taking care of this and revenue's just been sending the money that direction?
Yes, sir. We started this a couple of years ago, this kind of transferring it over. And I think the bill's just kind of catching up right now. I think they had it last year, but again, COVID kind of killed everything.
Further questions? Senator Pittman?
I mean, it sounds like fine, but why change the situation? Is there a benefit we're getting from this as a state, or are you getting a benefit in some fashion or form?
To going to the Highway Patrol, I think the Highway Patrol has more people that are available to follow up with certain things on it, like our testing and stuff. And then they also, the Highway Patrol is kind of being proactive on some of these, so people they know that do not have it, they've taken time to try and go and find out why. And so I think they're looking at it as a way of being proactive to kind of get more people onto their devices.
So that means that more people who are supposed to be on the devices are on the devices, and so therefore we have safer roads from the people who are being monitored by this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the other thing is the laws are set up, you can't wait out the time. So it's better to get the people on and get them going so they can get it off when their time's done.
Any further questions? No, we do have written only testimony from Colonel Jones. We do have several by WebEx. We have first up Lacey Black, Driver Solution Manager for Department of Revenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I am Lacey Black. I am the manager of Driver Solutions for the Kansas Division of Vehicles. We appear today as a proponent of Senate Bill 146. This is a bill that is a part of the legislative agenda brought forth by the division. It would amend KSA 8-1016, 8-241, 8-1014, and 8-1015. This bill will transfer the oversight of the DUI IID designation fund and duties from Department of Revenue to Kansas Highway Patrol. And I did just want to expand a little bit on the question of the reason to switch it over. And the last several years, we've really just tried to expand the oversight program. We have, I believe right now, 8 approved Interlock providers. And we really just wanted to focus on making sure that they are compliant, making sure that our Kansas citizens are receiving the best service when they are required to have this device installed. So it just made sense to move the program over to where they could really focus on that aspect. So transferring the authority for the vendor oversight program to Kansas Highway Patrol just makes sense for business needs. KHP currently works with the Ignition Interlock providers, and permanently changing the program to be administered through KHP will provide the citizens of Kansas with the confidence that the device is installed properly and that all services are being provided correctly. So the Division of Vehicles and the Kansas Highway Patrol will continue to work closely on many aspects of compliance and safety. The bill will not change the division's current role in handling drivers' statuses and restriction periods. So the division would still handle all of that. And we will continue to work with KHP as the rules and regulations for this bill are transferred. So thank you, and I will stand for any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you, Lacey.
Thank
You
you.
have David Harper, Department of Revenue. You no longer online? We'll see if Deanne Williams is still online.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Morning.
I think Lacey has given the overview as to, why we need to go ahead and make the changes. And so then I think that if there's any questions, I know that Lacey's our expert, so she will definitely be able to answer any of those. Thank you.
Excellent. Further questions for Lacey? Seeing none. Are there any further proponents? Any neutrals? Any opponents? Close the hearing on Senate Bill 146. We do have committee scheduled for Friday. We'll probably be doing hearings, won't be working bills, just to give you a heads up. I got off on my scheduling this week, and so it's my problem. And I have an announcement listed here that's for the Irish in you. There is Irish potato candy available on the table as you leave. I'm assuming that's from Florence. With that, we are adjourned.